Oh, no, I got 10 seconds. So I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this evening's meeting as we enter the fourth quarter. This is the 17th meeting of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs. We'll begin with an invocation by Melinda Schunk, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
The fall equinox is upon us. Last Friday, we welcomed the full harvest moon, a harvest moon that washed over the city of Hot Springs to help us welcome the new season. May Mother Earth use all of the fall changes to bless each member who serves this city. As you see the new colors in the trees, may they inspire you to think of new ideas to beautify this community. When you feel the cooler temperatures, may it remind you to calm and cool your mind as you discuss complex topics within your service. As Mother Earth provides you with the taste of the sweet harvest of fall fruits that you enjoy with your family, let those times remind you that what you do in this city is for all of the families of Hot Springs. The sun will shine less, the nights will be long. Use this time to rest from the summer's work and prepare for the year ahead. May you absorb all of the blessings of fall as you move forward in your city council blessings in your meeting.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday. Here. Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. Joining us up front this evening is Deputy City Manager Denny McFate. Mr. Burrow, our city manager, is out of town. He is on Zoom, and so we welcome him, and imagine Lance Spitzer, Deputy City Manager, is there with him. But to whatever degree that we need on-site input, Deputy City Manager McFate will provide for that. We'll consider approval of the agenda. Any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business. Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to move R-23-165 to new business.
Okay, our dash dealing with the concession stand at Kimmery Park. We need a second on that.
Second.
Okay, that's fine. We'll begin that. That'll be the first item under, as we begin new business. So just slide down. Okay, the first item under new business will be the R-23-165. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I had one as well. On the number 5, which is R-23-166, I received an inordinate amount of phone calls questioning some of the items, and I thought it should be brought forward to the public so that they can understand exactly what we're doing.
Okay, we have another party that would like to do that. We'll just
Second.
We'll go ahead and do that. So that'll be, we'll just keep those in the same order. We'll just stop the consent agenda after number 3. Okay.
I move to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you. We got a motion to approve as amended, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved as amended. At this time, we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting of September 19, 2023. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Director Trustee,
Second.
seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have Mr. Gary Troutman, President and CEO of the Greater Chamber of Commerce and Hot Springs Metro Partnership, and he'll be providing us his economic development report. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Appreciate the time tonight. Since we met a few weeks ago, it hadn't been quite a month. Start with the projects. We was in Dallas a couple weeks ago at the IDC conference, got to meet with a project that we've been working on pretty extensively since the initial meeting back in May at SEDC. Got to meet with the company representative down there. Got back in town the next week. Last week, we had a third Zoom call on this project, and probably don't have to tell you that 3 Zoom calls means a significant amount of interest on the part of the other company. I think I did tell you last month that we're probably looking at a mid-2025 project date on this, but everything is moving forward. Very excited, and it would be a significant project. So keep your fingers crossed, and we were working diligently on that. As far as the Majestic, and my apologies, Scott Dews had both his sons had ball games tonight, so he would love to be here. But our Majestic Committee, along with Representative Les Warren, has met with a downtown business owner who owns quite a few businesses for his thoughts on the Majestic and his level of participation, because it will directly involve him. Other exciting news, our committee traveled to Northwest Arkansas, met with a couple leaders up there on potential investors. So we continue to try to move the ball forward, and we are looking forward to next week's work session and cover the Majestic more in detail. As for ACTI, Jack Porter contacted David Whitty from Congressman Westerman's office, and the Phase 2 environmental was supposed to be completed on Friday, this past Friday. So we're just waiting on results, at which point we would assume that a remediation plan would be in order, and we would need to start putting that together so the property could change hands. Workforce has been just, if you saw your packet, just really busy. Gary Jackson has been in all 7 of the schools this month. We are watching Mother Nature closely, but we're supposed to have a golf tournament tomorrow to have scholarships, not only for the 4-year university traditional path, but also those looking at a future in career training via National Park College or other avenues. Gary Cole and I attended the Arkansas Workforce Employer Forum at the Saline County Career and Tech Center with Governor Sanders and Chief Workforce Officer Mike Rogers, several elected officials. I'll tell you again, it's really refreshing to have a day and an event carved out just for workforce. This is something we probably would have begged for 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's a hot topic of discussion. We had started an initial meeting, again out of the blue, I think I told you several months ago, of our 5 local aviation companies. It's always a little dicey when you've got 5 competitors in a room. Everything went extremely well to the point they asked for another meeting, which we had a couple weeks ago. I was at Finance Committee last night. I don't mind telling the story that Tony McCanley with Cobalt Aero Services said, hey, this is a tough gig to get young men and young women in the aviation business, and especially with 5 companies here in Hot Springs. So if maybe I have someone that doesn't work for me for whatever reason, be glad to share that person. We want to keep the young man or young woman in the aviation field. So that was kind of refreshing to hear. Gary toured National Park College, their CTE classrooms, and needing updates on some of those, which certainly Dr. Bill Allison and Bill Ritter and Dr. Hogan are well aware. Gary met with the first gentleman. We're still getting used to trying to say the first gentleman, but he met with the first gentleman, Brian Sanders, Bill Barnes, Steve Qualls, and the superintendent and principal from Caddo Hills at Mountain Harbor to discuss workforce in and around Hot Springs and our surrounding areas. I want to thank Cora Easterday from West Central Planning. Told you several times we've got the SHRM Foundation pilot project that we've been working on, and she helped me finish that paper, and that's been submitted to SHRM in DC. So we're just waiting for more information on that. There's really quite a few highlights this month, but the one I'd really like to focus on is Gary and I spent the day last Monday teaching 8th grade at Lake Hamilton. And 5 of the 7 classes were, and Director Webb will know this well, 5 of the 7 had 28 kids in it. So a little daunting, one about 20 and one about 15 or so. But we did what we've been trying to do for years. And I'm gonna ask you to remember when about 3 years ago when Michelle and I were standing up here and we'd met with Lakeside and we're about to get in all the schools, and you know what happened after that. COVID shot us down. So we've been waiting to get this back right. It certainly hasn't hurt having Gary Jackson on our team, who has a lot of pull coming from the education. But we got to show the kids what we tell you about. We got to show them slides of Alliance Rubber, the largest producer of rubber bands in the world. We got to show them the 5 aviation companies. We got to show them that, for instance, 1 out of 10 sandwiches that Chick-fil-A serves comes from a Keith Smith farm right here in the company here in Hot Springs. So thing's really attention getters. And I mentioned last night, I've got an inside spy. My wife is a teacher, 8th grade teacher at Lake Hamilton, and she said even on Thursday, 2 or 3 days later, the kids were still talking about jobs and potential in Hot Springs. So that was very refreshing. We go to Mountain Pine next Wednesday. We're scheduling Cutter, but we're going to get all 7 of our schools done before Thanksgiving. And really excited about this. We had such good feedback that they've asked us to come in the high schools and incorporate grades where we can. So we're hitting way more than 8th grade. So we're looking to do that. And in the spring, we're going to bring our companies in with us, because they'll be closer to graduation, and hiring will be more in the equation come that time. Do want to say, Director Trustee, I stumbled into a Board of Trustees meeting at the college last week, right as Dr. Hogan was congratulating his staff and the partnership for bringing high school welding to the college. We've been advocating for that some time, and as you know, Bill Allison jumped through a few hoops and found some funding that no one has been able to find to make that happen. In general, we continue to participate in the Arkansas Broadband Leaders Network. As broadband becomes more and more of a utility, we just kind of almost take for granted, and that's a good thing. I think when Scott Dews and I met with you last month, we had just come from Little Rock. I do want to remind you, big news for Hot Springs is Oaklawn going to be hosting the Broyles Award after next football season. Why is that so big? Aside from being the award for the best assistant football coach in America, the award simply has to move because it's in, I believe, December now, and with the new playoff format, the event's going to have to move to January or February. This will allow the nominees and their families to stay here longer, their fellow coaches who want to root them on, and possibly even the head coaches. So a big windfall. Congratulations to Oaklawn, Wayne Smith, the Sella family for making that happen. Gary and I attended the Garland County Superintendents and Education meeting at the Hot Springs Administration Building. Got again to thank them for letting us in all the schools there. I know this is a Metro Partnership report, but you all care about Visit Hot Springs as well. Just want to give a thanks to Bill Solider. We were hosted a lunch and learn about the solar eclipse. We quickly had to move that event to Crystal Ridge Distillery. We sold, we had over 100 registrations. We wound up having 86 people show up. So a lot of interest there, as y'all are well aware. We reinstated an old program. ASMSA, their 12 student ambassadors, visited with Cole and Vicki and I to learn the role of the partnership and the chamber in the community. We have has since Adam Webb at the library has begun a local Garland County broadband committee to make sure that we get every single household in the county in the next 3 to 5 years. I mentioned to you last month there was an extra $1 billion in funding coming from the federal government, even though our best projections show Garland County to be covered 95 to 98% in 3 years. So maybe some additional money if there are any parts that, any places that need to be addressed. We continue our meetings with our friends from Arkadelphia, Malvern, and the Village on regional economic development. I mentioned Dallas, the conference there, International Economic Development Conference. Got a lot of good sessions. We learned good info, and there were 1,600 folks in attendance there. When I worked at the Democrat in Little Rock, we worked a lot with the realtors. Realtors are very important. They're going to be integral in Hot Springs as we grow and water becomes a non-issue. But the Arkansas Realtors Conference held their state conference here at the Convention Center. So just want to call your attention if you didn't know that. I know you've all driven the Expressway extension. Finally got to do that yesterday. You know how beautiful that is. And we had a site visit with Cobalt Aero, and last thing, I got to participate in the U.S. Chamber Winter Board of Regents as a board member there. So that concludes the report for the month of September. Happy to answer any questions if I may.
Any questions of Mr. Troutman? Hearing none, thank you very much. Very thorough.
Thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday afternoon.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the city from Mr. Bill Burrow, our city manager, who's on Zoom. Welcome, Bill, and proceed, please. We can't hear you, Bill.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So we've got several things happening, Mayor, members of the board. We have an employee health fair that'll be on October the 11th at the Hot Springs Convention Center from 8 to 12. Our employees will have the opportunity to have blood work done, flu shots, and all the vendors will be there to speak with our employees. There'll be an opportunity to have hearing. They won't check it there, but they'll have an opportunity to make an appointment to have that checked. That's something we do every year, and it's always been well received from the employees. Solid waste we have in their household hazardous waste event. That'll be happening Saturday, October the 14th from 8 to 1 at the Garland County Fairgrounds. That's something that we typically get a lot of calls on, and I'm sure we're already receiving those. Garland County Fairgrounds, 4831 Malvern. Again, that's October the 14th from 8 to 1. And it's household hazardous waste. They will not be collecting tires at this event, or at least no tires with rims. Household hazardous waste is just pretty much anything you'd find in your garage shelf or under the sink. A very popular event, and we want to thank the Southwest Central Regional Solid Waste Management District for funding that. Speaking of that particular event on the 14th, those that are needing community service, we have an opportunity for 2-for-1 hours on your community service. They need to meet at the Garland County Courthouse at 6:45 a.m. on October the 14th to assist with that event. For more information, they can contact the district court at 501-321-6765. Under Parks and Trails, they hosted another very successful Tykes Trikes and Trails on September the 23rd. There was a total of 57 people participated in the event, with local community members winning the 2 bicycles that were raffled off along with 2 helmets. Really a great program for the kids. As most of you know, we had a large power surge that took place back in August that disabled the circuit boards in both of our downtown elevators and the parking deck. Pleased to report that the elevators have been repaired and they're now operational. Sports recreation, softball, t-ball season has kicked off, and sports recreation has a total of 26 youth teams and estimated 285 participants in 4 different age divisions. Games take place at Kimry Park on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So far, it looks like both players and parents are in a full sports mood out there. We also have our adult softball league for men's and co-ed softball, which those have started with combined 25 teams and other 300 participants. And those games are also at Kimry on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. I want to give another kudo to Corporal Jesus Anaya and our peer recovery specialist, Carrie Montgomery. They were invited to be keynote speakers by Shine the Light event hosted by Oaklawn United Methodist and Haven United Methodist Church. They both did a remarkable job, and we appreciate what they're doing in the opioid epidemic and some of the classes that they're having for Narcan. And then lastly, I want to make the board aware that, well, a couple of more things. Tyler ERP, our New World Payment System, on October the 9th, the city's Tyler ERP will be down. It'll be undergoing a significant upgrade. The upgrade involves the relocation of the system from our servers at City Hall to the Tyler cloud servers. This process will commence about 8 o'clock on October the 9th, which is a Monday. During that time, we won't be able to accept any, we won't be able to get into our system to look up accounts and those kind of things. We will be able to take checks. We just won't be able to process them till the next day. We're scheduled to have that system back up and running sometime on the evening of October the 9th, and should be able to resume accepting full payments on October the 10th at 8 a.m. That's going to be a huge undertaking, and we appreciate Jeff and all of those in finance and utility billing for working through this and trying to make that happen for us. As you know, we were in budget meetings last week. From, it seems like Monday morning to Friday evening, Karen Scott and I, along with the deputy managers, met with all of our department heads. We've gone through the first round of all of our budgets. It's a very daunting task, but one that we do every year. We'll be rolling those numbers up this week, and when I get back tomorrow, meeting with Karen on Friday, we'll start looking at those numbers and start rolling those up. And may have to have a couple more meetings with a couple of the departments, but we're in full budget mode and working on that. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Very good. Any questions of our city manager? Hearing none, we'll move on to director's announcements of upcoming events. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to announce that the 32nd Hot Springs International Documentary Film Festival opens this Friday evening, October 6th, with opening night out at the Oaklawn Event Center. All other screenings through October 14th will be at the Arlington Hotel. And if interested, please view the screenings that are scheduled throughout the coming week and 2 weekends. And kudos to the Arlington for all of their upgrades that's been taking place and be in place before this festival begins. Also, I'm happy to announce that on Thursday, October 12th, I'll be hosting a community meeting in District 5 beginning at 4 p.m. at the Event Center in Forest Lakes at 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard. We will have new information from the sanitation department regarding new recyclables we can include in our curbside pickups, be reviewing status updates on the city code review, and seeking citizens' input. Then we have lots of food, and we'll be welcoming the Hot Springs police officers to join us for a national night out. If you can't attend all of these activities, please attend what time permits you to attend, and bring a friend with you. This is open to all of the public. And speaking of the police department, National Night Out is October 12th. And if you, I have scheduled this time with the police department. If you would like to schedule a visit in your neighborhood, please contact the police department to make that schedule at 501-321-6789 at extension 6734. And also the police department is again, and the fire department, sponsoring Boo with a Badge on Halloween, October 31st. at the Hot Springs Junior Academy located at 401 Emory Street. And this begins at 5:30. So I believe we may have a agenda meeting that night. Are we supposed to wear costumes? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. She did a pretty thorough job of all community activities. Is there one that's been missed, overlooked?
there's one,
Yes,
a big
Director
one.
Dobbs-Smith.
We have on October 6th, we have our police department badge pinning ceremony.
Very nice.
excited to get some new officers.
So
That'll be at
how many
2 o'clock.
officers are we pinning badges on? Several. You can look that up, several.
So
Very
we have
good.
more booze with the badges.
All
And some
right.
promotions.
Any other announcements? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I haven't got an announcement, but I was going to ask Chief Harvington, how do you plan on topping the Dr. Seuss costume?
Very nice. Okay, that concludes the announcements. We'll move on to consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature that do not merit individual discussion. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Director
Second.
Webb, Director Garcia, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Now, we had moved a couple items from consent agenda to new business, and we'll begin with Resolution R-23-165, and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-165, a resolution awarding a contract to Golden Standard Construction LLC for Kimmery Park concession stand building renovations and certain baseball field improvements. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Dobbs-Smith, seconded by.
Second.
Pardon?
Second.
Director Webb. Denny, are you going to do this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please proceed with the staff report.
As Kimmery Park Sports continues to grow, the concession stand building has not had any substantial work done to it and is in need of various upgrades and improvements. Plans were developed to expand the width of the concession stand building kitchen by approximately 5.5 feet, the full width of the building. An electric griddle and commercial vent hood system will be added to the service area, and all counters and major appliances will be upgraded. There currently is no heating or air conditioning in the building with the exception of one HVAC unit, and it's in the concession room. As part of the renovation, 5 new mini-split HVAC units will be added along with 2 electric heaters. An internal restroom will be added in the remodeled office space. All interior walls, exterior walls, and ceilings will be painted. The floors will be epoxy sealed. All exterior doors and windows will be replaced. There will be 8 new dugout slabs poured, which will be moving the dugouts from their current locations out to the first and third baselines. There will be 3 new 15 by 35.5 foot metal roof shade structures, including slabs, to be installed at locations where benches currently do not have shaded coverings. Bid invitations were sent out to, invites were sent to 419 vendors for the concession stand renovations and field improvements. One bidder was responded, which was Golden Standards Construction LLC of Traskwood, Arkansas, and they met all the bid specifications, so therefore staff's recommendation is approve the awarding and contract to Golden Standards Construction LLC, Traskwood, Arkansas, in the amount of $452,012, and the funds were budgeted in the 2023 Sports and Recreation Capital Budget.
Okay.
Mr. Golden is here with the construction company, if anybody has any questions for them. And Adam with Sports and Recreation, our Sports and Recreation Director is here as well, if there's any questions on operations.
I have a question for our sports director. Is that,
He's coming forward. Welcome.
hi. So my question was, I've always understood that Kimmery Park is the only park in our repertoire that actually makes any money. I know we don't pay for it because it's a public service, but how much, do you know offhand how much money is brought in from the programs that are out there, the softball program, the tennis program,
Yep.
and the soccer?
Yeah, so currently we collect revenues for playing field fees, for recreational program fees, and for concession fees. And I think this year off the top of my head, I think the allocated budget was 75,000 for those combined. So that's 65,000, I believe, were recreation program fees. 5,000 or 6,000 were for concession fees, and then 5,000 or 6,000 were for playing field fees as well.
Is that just softball?
Yes, yes.
So
that's,
are there fees for the other activities that are out there?
that's all we currently do for
That's-
the city is softball, youth and adult t-ball and softball, and then we do a miscellaneous adult kickball league through on the same fields.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. And I've got a few questions that kind of pertain itself to the contract itself, but since Adam's up here now, I'll kind of keep my questions more related to something that you can answer, or if you can't, I think Bill's on, our city manager's on Zoom, and then Mr. Denny's right here too. But so based on the budget for 2023, and I would assume that this is what was passed in November, December of 22 by the previous board, is $990,000 the amount of funds set aside just for Kimmery Park? Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir, it does.
I'm bringing this, yeah, I think it was in the paper too,
Yes, sir.
this past Sunday. So this resolution, at $452,012, plus $169,000 for new LED lights that happened in April this year, for the softball complex equals about $620,000. That leaves $368,988 for Kimmery Park for 23. Does that number sound about right, or are there some like projects that I'm leaving out?
There's a fencing project that has yet to be encumbered to replace a bunch of the fencing at the park. That would
Okay.
come out of that 300.
Okay. Do we have any number on what the fencing project is?
Director Webb, if
Yeah.
I could, bear in mind there's a capital budget and there's an operation budget.
That's what I was going to say.
Two different things.
Okay.
So this money was set aside in the capital budget for these improvements to the facilities. Has nothing to do with operational.
Okay, so how much is left in capital? Would that number still be at 368? That's money that can be spent on improvements at Kimmery Park, though, correct?
I would think so.
Okay.
I'm not your finance director or I'm just letting you know there's two different budgets here. If Karen happens to know those figures, she's here tonight.
Okay. I'm going somewhere with those questions. I'm trying to see if you can share, if we were to arrive at that number, $368,988, being what essentially is left for potential renovations at Kimmery Park, could you be able to share with me, and I heard fencing, but do we have any number for fencing? Like the cost?
I think the last estimate that we got, and we've done some modifications on the scope, that we haven't actually bid it, but for our budget estimate, it was around 160,000 for the scope that we had identified.
And that fencing, would it be for all of the amenities at Kimmery?
No, sir, it won't cover all the.
Or would it just be
It's
softball
It's the bad sections of the field fencing.
for softball?
Yes.
So for that remaining, I guess around 200, and it looks like the lights that went in that were LED lights were $170,000. That was in April. How does the city plan on allocating that remaining balance, that 200?
It
But
would,
we'll have to go back, this is Bill. We'll need to go back and look at that and see what is actually left once we have all of those projects bid. If there's something, if we're able to do all of those projects and there's an amount left over, we'll look at another project and bring that back to the board. Not always do we spend everything that's in the budget. And typically those will roll back into the general fund at the end of the year. We have a lot of needs, in parks. Soccer is a prime example. I'd like to see us continue to do more work at Linden with some of our soccer fees or funds. And we'll always revert back to what the board had on your unfunded capital projects. So if we don't spend all the money at Kimry, those may go back into basically the fund to be able to start checking off some of those needs that the board's identified.
I want to yield to see if anybody else has any questions. I have more, but if anybody's been thinking about something and they're ready to ask a question, y'all go ahead.
Director Garcia?
I was just curious, out of so many that were bid, why sent out invitation to bid? Was there any feedback as to why only one bidder came back?
No, ma'am.
Or, because
Director Garcia, if I want to clarify something there as well. We're part of our bids, Arkansas bids. We send these out. It's anyone that is requested to receive a bid. As I looked at some of those businesses and contractors that we sent this out to, not all of them are in this type of field. It's going to go to anyone that's signed up to receive bids from the city of Hot Springs. So there's a large number of those that aren't in this type of construction. So when we say it went out to 400, I think we need to clarify that more in the future, that this is everyone that, or all of those that have signed up to receive bids from the city of Hot Springs, not just specifically a construction project or a field project or any other project when we send those out. So I think that's important to clarify.
Director Garcia?
thank you for that clarification. And does that include our local bidders or local people? Do they know to sign up on our bids? Or
I believe so.
Because there was a okay, thank you.
Director Wave, you have additional questions, comments?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So you had mentioned something, about soccer, and that's kind of where I was going. The soccer lights, or excuse me, the new LED lights that were put in for the softball complex at Kimry, about $169,000, and I think the budget on the major capital unfunded project list for soccer lights at Kimry were at $250, but I think we did see some numbers that were coming in that made available to us that allow us to spend less than that $250 projected budget. The question I have is, why are the soccer lights at Kimry slated on that major capital unfunded project list, but not the lights for the softball complex? Where's the difference between the two? We
had the lights there at Kimry prior to that particular list that you're referring to. They were something that we had in the 2023 budget from our 2022 meetings.
Were they ever at any point in time on a major capital unfunded project list that were moved over to the budget?
I don't think so. It's been almost 12 years since we had one of those lists. That's why we brought it to you this year to rate and rank those, so we would have a new list for staff to work on over the next 10 years. That list is something that we'll be looking at and dealing with, for several years to come.
Okay, thank you. And, this being almost $500,000, it just still puzzles me how this resolution at $452,000 is on our consent agenda to supposedly just roll on through, but the lights for the soccer complex, again, have to go through this extensive process of being on a raking list just to be considered. And in my opinion, it just sounds like a major disparity of allocated funds to me. It's
Well,
not fair or equal to the soccer side.
I can appreciate that, but this money was allocated as we did the 2023 budget. We expressed that when we had our meetings, and you'll go through something similar here in October whenever we talk about the 2024 budget. Once we put those in there, and that's part of what we're working on, staff moves through with those. I think it's important to recognize that, Kimry is our highest used park. It's used more than any other park of the 22 we have in our system. It's our premier sports park. I think we could also have a premier soccer park. but that's going to come, you know, in the future as we start allocating funds over to that particular sport. I believe we need it. I'd love to see additional soccer. We've had teams playing up at Linden, and the information we're getting back from them is they've been very satisfied with that, and that may be an area where we could have a good sports complex at a lower cost than what we could there at Kimry. But as we talk about softball and some of the things that is happening at Kimry, that's always been kind of our premier sport. When you look at the number of players we have, in the spring we had 56 teams with boys 4 to 6 and girls 4 to 14. We had 615 players in the spring, and I think this fall, I just mentioned, we have 285. When you look at 900 players in 2023, and if 1.5 persons come out there, parents come out there, you know, that's 2,250 annual visitors just for our youth sports on softball. Then when you look at the adult softball that we have out there, that's the men's, the co-ed teams, the church teams, the church co-eds. We had 25 teams in spring, 23 in summer, 25 in fall. At around 12, you know, people on a team, that's another 876 players. With spectators, that's probably another 1,000. So that doesn't include the 15 or 20 tournaments that we have. So it's you know, we've invested a lot in softball and youth baseball, adult softball, and now adult kickball. I think we continue to try to do that and bring other sports and that our youth enjoy. I know there are a lot of organizations for soccer. We have the Y, we have the the Hot Springs Soccer football group, and I think there's 1 or 2 others. But you know, I think that's something that if the board directs staff, we'll be working towards that as well. But today, Kimry is our premier sports complex, and we have softball and some youth baseball there.
I appreciate your response, Bill. I know I've gotten back different reports. I do know back in the summer of this year, the Spa City Football League, you know, was requested to give the soccer fields a break there at Kimry Park. So they did spend some time out at Linden, and in week 1 of being out at Linden Park to play soccer, all their equipment was vandalized, lots of profanity was spray painted on the fields. They did file a police report on this action, and I'm in pretty steady communication with the representatives of this football league, and their desire is to continue to play soccer at Kimry. Besides that league, which is made up of about 226 players ranging in ages between 10 and 60, Hot Springs School District is also looking for somewhere to practice soccer this December, as the new high school construction is being built over what once was their practice soccer field. Their desire is to practice at Kimry soccer fields as well. And there are many family and residents, our people, who love this sports complex. They love everything there, but those who are passionate about soccer want to play soccer at Kimry. And I want to know if we can commit tonight, if we're making this suggestion that there, after we take from what's existing in these funds of $368,988, there is about 160 that will be devoted to the fencing for the softball complex. Can we commit tonight, this city staff and this board, that the remaining 200,000 be allocated to some degree for the soccer complex at Kimry? Can we do that tonight?
Well, I do want to, let me jump in there right quick. We do have money in the budget to continue to do some seeding and, help me, Adam, I can't think of the term.
So we will
Aerate. We're going to aerate the fields and do some seeding over there. So hopefully, with the 2 parks, with Linden and Kimry, we'll take enough pressure off of Kimry to actually have some grass grow. I don't know if it was Omar that you were referring to with the Hot Springs football. I think he's had some discussions with Adam. Adam, you want to share your discussions there?
Yeah, so Omar and I talk pretty regularly with getting him set up for his leagues, and he's expressed recently that he enjoys playing the league being out at Linden Park. Originally, like Dudley mentioned, they did enjoy Kimry. Since we made the switch over to Linden, it seems like the playing surfaces it's definitely a little more full of grass, and that it's more level in the terrain, and so that's what they mentioned that they liked with the Hot Springs Football League. Now, as far as communications with you, I'm not sure. He hasn't told me any of those. So
I haven't heard of any conversations that he's had with you either. It sounds like it's hearsay, from me and from you, because I'm hearing different from him. Okay. And I think what I've noticed in the past is really this league just doesn't want to experience any type of drama. I know he's expressed to me that he's 100% appreciative for everything that the city of Hot Springs does, whether it be for the time that they spend at Kimry Park playing soccer and even at Linden. And, Omar just doesn't want to be involved in the political side of it. But I speak to not just him, but a multitude of players that are within this league. And I'm in this fight because they want to continue to play soccer there. And, I'm here to serve those that are in my district, to serve those that are constituents of mine. And if the people's desire is to play soccer at Kimry, then that's where I am too.
Very
So
good.
do we not have any commitment to this money?
I think I'm going to go back to what the city attorney said, and you have a capital budget, you got an operational budget. It sounds to me like you're really talking operational budget, but wanting to use capital money out of an operational budget. The 452, as Bill had indicated, is monies that was approved in a budget of the 2023 budget, and that was approved in 2022. The fact that we bring it in as a consent agenda is solely because it was already approved. There's no ability to slide or hide the expenditure. It's there. It's in writing. It was approved. It was approved in the budget of in action taken in 2022 for a 2023 budget. So Bill doesn't have authority to expend funds over $60,000, so he brings it back. But it's more of a ratification than a wholesale review. Now, if we had discontinued softball program, let's say for some reason Kimry was not even in existence anymore, and such a resolution came forward, then we would be questioning what is this? Well, it was approved in the budget. Well, it doesn't exist anymore. We're not spending money on something that doesn't exist. But it does exist, and this was approved, yes, by the board that was seated in 2022, and authorized the expenditure. So, if there's capital monies to be allocated, that's another question. To say, okay, if there's some other funds, and I'd like to, have Karen, Scott, and Bill get together along with Adam and take a look at the capital expenditures that may not have been funded yet, and there may be some funds, and if there are some funds available, we can look at the best use of those funds. If it's lighting for soccer, fine. If it's paving some additional streets, fine.
Thank you, Mayor, too, for that response. And, I'm hearing you that this is coming from the capital, which was budgeted in 2022, but I'm also hearing that we don't know what the use is for that other 200,000 that's laying out there. And so if we don't know what the use is for, then let's make that happen tonight. Let's say that the use is going to be for the soccer lights at Kimry Park.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. As a person that has been at Kimry Park as a spectator for a long time, beginning with granddaughters that played softball there, and now a great grandchild that's playing tiny tot t-ball. I am all in favor of improvements at Kimry. We have a beautiful facility in the Majestic Fields for baseball, and I think our girls athletics deserve to be, have a great place to come to for the tournaments that girls coming from out of town that brings business into Hot Springs. And as a grandmother, I welcome the new shading that will come to benches that are not currently shaded. That is desperately needed for us senior citizens and others at the heat that comes there during a lot of the playing time and tournaments there. And I welcome any improvements and parking improvements that we can make. I am a big supporter of the athletics and that we have at Kimry and want to support that. Our question for us tonight is awarding the contract. We don't have a question before us on funding. And the deputy manager has told us that we don't have bids out for all the capital projects yet. So before any amount could be identified as not needed, we would need to know what all the bids amounts are to be deducted. And typically, procedurally, what has happened, those would go back in if there were any available after all the projects had bids and contracts had been awarded. And now we have a rating on our unfunded, and those do include some safety, for public safety, and those have been already rated, and we need to consider that at the time we know how much is it available and what would be available to be allocated somewhere else in conjunction with what this board has already rated and ranked for, because we didn't have enough funds to cover everything that was not funded. So in line with what the question is before us tonight, I did have a question for the contractor when that becomes available.
Would that individual please come forward? What is his name?
Mr. Chris Golden.
Mr. Golden? Adam, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Golden. You probably have to raise the mic. You're a little taller than Adam.
Can you hear me?
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Golden, for being here tonight and also for your interest in submitting the bid for this contract for the city of Hot Springs. And I wasn't familiar with your company, but have you done any work for the city of Hot Springs before?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Okay, but I did do some research and saw you had with Cato a government contract that you'd completed in Warren, and you've done some house building and some other projects in Central Arkansas and even up in Beebe. And I know that the construction and expansion part of this contract is around 290, and then the balance of it's more of the different concrete work and the shading, et cetera. Do you have any concerns of this contract project and meeting the deadline that's in the contract for February?
I've always got concerns about meeting deadlines. I don't see anything that would hold us back other than material being delivered on time and getting things ordered on time, something like to that effect. But work and manpower, I don't have any problems with.
So the skill set of your workers, you feel confident in completing these different portions of this overall
Yes, ma'am.
contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I did see on the internet several projects you'd completed that, and I saw reviews that were all positive. I didn't find any negative, but I wasn't sure a project this size is new to you, and or if this was in line with what you've been doing recently.
No, ma'am. I've done projects bigger than this. This is
Okay.
not.
Out of line.
No, ma'am. Not.
Well,
not
I
by far.
appreciate you sharing that, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That
Any
was a-
additional questions of the contractor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Being that there are still some questions as to how the remaining capital funds after this potential resolution is to be accepted, if that's the case, I make a motion that we pull this agenda item off of the agenda tonight and ask that city staff please review that capital budget to determine how we can utilize the remaining $200,000 towards the soccer complex at Kimry Park, and then bring it back to the board when the resolution includes funding for the soccer field complex at Kimry, as well as the concession renovations and then the renovations for the softball complex.
Before the board might hear a second on that motion, you can't remove it from the agenda. The agenda has been approved. You can table it. Would you like to make a motion to table?
I make a motion to table it.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion is a second to table. Please, do we have discussion? No discussion, we go right into.
It's non-debatable.
Non-debatable, so a yes vote tables the item, a no vote keeps it on. Okay? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday?
No.
Beard?
Yes.
Dobbs Smith?
No.
Webb?
Yes.
Garcia?
No.
Trustee?
No.
Mayor McCabe?
No. Table fails. We have an individual in the audience that wishes to speak on this item. Mr. George Pritchett, would you like to come forward? Or? Pardon? I decline at this time. Okay. Any discussion amongst directors? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just asked for about 3 minutes. That's all. So Kimry is our premier park for sports. This was a quote in Sunday's paper by our city manager, Bill Burrow, and I 100% agree that Kimry is our premier park for sports. And I'm not going to put words in our city manager's mouth, but I'm pretty sure he was speaking to the need to renovate the concession stand at Kimry. I've worked in it before, and I've gone up to Kimry on several different occasions each week and can attest to the need for those repairs. But Kimry actually has 4 amenities: softball, tennis, soccer, and a kids' playground. To maintain adequate sustainability for all 4 of these amenities, it's highly important to rotate amongst these 4 amenities the deserved fiscal appropriations. I don't think we're doing that now, or not as good as I think we should. And it's a shame to see the soccer complex just be neglected from fiscal support year after year after year. The tennis courts at Kimry got a new surface a few years back. There's been some work done to the playground at Kimry over the last few years. And then the softball complex, new turf last year, valued at around $400,000. New lights in April of this year to replace existing lights, $170,000 there, and now $170,000 for dugouts and bleacher shade structures, plus $291,000 for concession stand repair. What about the soccer fields? Only $15,000 spent on soccer, I think, at Kimry over the past 5 to 7 years. And that's, for the most part, going for fertilizer and grass maintenance, the same that's being spent for softball. 0 enhancements, no lights at all 4 fields, old ragged bleachers that can't support the weight of a feather, lack of equipment, no turf. We've got a soccer league of 226 players using this field. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Hot Springs School District needs somewhere to go, wants to go to Kimry in December of this year to practice for their soccer program. HSA, the soccer league that plays out at Monroe, they practice at Kimry as well. Family residents, our people love this soccer complex. I want our city to invest in what our residents, our taxpayers, our communities, and our schools love. They love playing soccer at Kimry Park. I want to ask for support from my fellow directors to give soccer at Kimry the same respect as we give the other 3 amenities at this park. I would like to see a resolution to include lights for the soccer fields at Kimry Park. I want your support tonight to vote no to this resolution and ask city staff again to bring it back to the board when the resolution includes funding for lights at the soccer field complex at Kimry. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Director Beard.
No.
Dobbs Smith.
No.
Webb.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Trustee.
Yes.
Holliday.
Yes.
Mayor McCabe.
Yes. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll move on to the second item that was removed from the consent agenda and placed on new business, and that will be Resolution R-23-166, and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-166, a resolution approving amendments to the 2023 budget for the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. Staff report will be provided by
Will.
Director, by yourself, Director
Yes.
Denny?
Yes, sir.
By Deputy City Manager Denny McFate.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff's recommendation is approval of an amendment to the Public Works budget as outlined in the attached document in your packet. It's got a list of services that we're requesting the funding for. It's in the amount of $60,000, which is to operate the, keep up the upkeep of the building and electricity, water, sewer, and those kind of things, gas for heating during the winter from now through December the 31st. And our best guess estimate for that funding need is $60,300 for the for this expense.
And the source of that funds comes from?
Fund balance,
Fund balance.
general fund.
Mayor, if I could
Yes.
add to that.
Please, Bill.
We did not have an operating budget for the center coming out of the 2023 budget sessions. As you know, we didn't own a facility at that time. We have since closed. Some of these we're unsure about. We really had to take our best estimate based on what we think we have. We 324 Malvern City Hall, looked at those costs per square feet and kind of brought that over to this particular budget. There's several things on here like the electrical service, water, sewer, gas, those things. Some of that will have a revenue offset from the lease with the church. If it's not a lease, then there's 2 meters there. And City Attorney Albright may be able to tell us, I know he's working through that lease with Mr. Martin. If the church pays the annex or in the sanctuary, then these would go down. We would only have the portion that will be operating for the rest of this year and next. However, if they're not picking up that meter on that side, then they're going to pay us 2/3 of the cost of electric, water, gas, so forth. So there'll be either an offsetting revenue or this number will be much lower than what we put in here for the utilities. Maintenance contract, we've got some money in there for that. We need to look at the HVAC systems, building repairs and building improvements. We're not real sure, what it's going to cost to get that elevator in there back operational. We think it's electrical, but we need some money to have someone come in and look at that and see where we need to go. The other items, we have good HVAC. They're working well throughout the building, but we want to have someone come in and do a thorough exam of that. Should those have to be replaced, one of the things we're going to look at is working with Alex Mouton on some grant works that may be able to come in and save us a lot of money in replacing the HVAC. So there's things now that we own the building that we need to get in and look at. We weren't able to do that really until we were the owners. So this is what this budget is. It may not be 60,000. It may be 30,000. But we need money in there until we know exactly, what these costs are going to be. We'll be talking about it again when we talk about the 24 budget on October the 24th. As we looked at this, and I've said we'll have probably a year or so of some operational costs until we have an operator that's able to come in and get into the grant cycles to be able to offset some of that. In the meetings I've had down here this week, there's a partnership, all of these that I've spoken with, but things like any of the major renovations that we have to do, bringing in and having the suppression system, those are things that we'll be able to use that restricted ARPA funds that's only has certain uses that you could use out of that. We still have quite a bit of that left that will go towards these building improvements, as well as the annual CDBG funds from a couple of years ago that we set aside for this project. So any of those hard costs we'll be able to use ARPA and CDBG. Some of the operational costs, we'll need to pick those up until we actually have an operator and they're able to join that partnership.
Any questions of Bill? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify to make sure I understand correctly, because it's my understanding that one way or the other, the church is going to be paying a portion of these expenses for the electricity and gas, water, whatever that split is, if it's if we get the bill or if they're going to pay separate, and that portion of what they pay was not included in these numbers to lower the amounts reflected here. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have the full cost in here, and actually the church over the next year is going to be picking up the lion's share of that. They're 2/3 of the building. They're going to pick up 2/3 of the cost. If they don't, if that's not going to be the agreement, we have a separate meter completely for their side of that building for water, sewer, and electric. So they will keep those 2 meters in their name and pay for all of that usage on 2/3 of the building. Gas, there is only 1 meter, and they will be paying 2/3 of that as we move through the process.
Okay. And it was my understanding these renovations are building improvements that, like you mentioned, for the fire suppression, that we have restricted funds and funds set aside that those costs are coming out of, and those aren't operating costs. And we already have those monies that are set aside restricted that will be used for that type of purchase.
That is correct. These will be federal dollars, either through the restricted ARPA or the CDBG that we associated with the Resource Center 2 years ago.
In any of these expenses for operations that's listed here that are not spent by the City of Hot Springs will go back into the, at the end of the year, for this year, will go back into fund balance. And if we did have a longer, for next year, we had too much budgeted, and we see what it is, we can always amend and decrease that amount and reallocate those funds. Is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That is correct. And I want to say that, and I said this a moment ago on the other item, just because something's in the budget doesn't mean we have to spend it, nor do we often spend it. If the board that's been on, or board members that have been here for quite some time, when we budget, we typically, budget a deficit, but we've always come in with positive numbers, and I don't see this being any different.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Any other questions or comments on this topic?
I have some.
Director Dobbs-Smith?
I was very glad to hear the city manager say that the air conditioner is working, because I was under the misconception that when we were in there, it was broken. When we went to tour it on July 1st, I thought it was broken, so I'm thrilled to hear that it's not broken. So that clarifies one thing. So the other things where we have $85,000 in here, $8,500 here for maintenance contract, landscaping, janitorial services, and janitor supplies, and that just seemed like an awful lot of money. I mean, I know we're trying to estimate, and we want to estimate high, but since we are not actually going to be using the building, we're just working on repairing, doing, work to the building, I'm questioning why we're spending so much money on that. To me, it seems like if we've got a tenant, which that was the good news is we've got air conditioner. The bad news is it's been 3 months and we haven't come to an agreement on what the church is going to pay. So we paid 25% more than the appraised value, so you would think that since they're going to be in there, that they would pay the utilities or the lion's share. And I did hear that maybe it would be 2/3, but we've heard a lot of things. We've heard they weren't paying rent. We've heard they were paying rent. I would like to see something in writing, post-haste. I am assuming that's on our city attorney.
It is, and it's actually just as simple as 2/3 and 1/3 on the utilities. Everything else was part of the consideration of the sale itself. So those are the only issues.
The $8,500 for the mowing the grass and janitor. So I'm trying to figure out where the janitor part comes in. $4,500 for janitor.
That you're out of my bailiwick.
I'm just looking at the numbers that we were given.
I can speak to you about utilities. That's the only thing that we are splitting with the church. Mr. Martin is here on another matter for tonight, but he and I have discussed this as recently as 70 minutes ago. That's the only thing. We just have to get signatures. That's all we're waiting on.
So then it's a moot point that the listing that we have here for the $9,300 in utilities is more than twice as much as what the actual breakdown was when you divide it up by the month that we were given at the purchase. We were shown that the utilities run around less than $2,000 a month, and based on this number, that's going to be around $3,000 a month. Plus, I did not know that you already had struck a deal about paying the utilities, but that's awesome.
Yeah,
So that's my only question.
I'm not sure where the estimates came from, but
This paper.
Well,
no,
and we will have some other.
No, they're on the paper. I'm saying I'm not sure who derived
Well,
the
see,
numbers.
that's what
to
I
put on
want
the
to know.
paper.
I mean, we're elected to
We'll-
look after the city's money.
Yes.
And to ask questions, and we know the city manager is quite capable, and he does a fantastic job of taking care of those little details. But when I get 6 phone calls from different constituents in my district, that doesn't count the ones outside my district, at questioning some of these things, then I've got to bring it forward. That's all. Thank you.
Glad you did. I'm glad you did. And there'll be a couple other things like that maintenance contract. They've got a whole separate system on that side of the building. If there's going to be repairs to that HVAC system, they're going to pay those. If it goes out as basically the tenant will have those expenses. But there's things that'll still happen on their side that they'll continue to pay. I'm in agreement with you. I think $3,000 in janitorial services is high. We're not really
$4,000.
there doing a lot. We do have to mow the grass, and this will need to take its fair share, as we do with all general fund departments. It's just there's an unknown. We need to get some history on it with our use that we didn't have before.
Director Garcia?
Just a little more clarification regarding mowing the lawn. We're not expecting to be having to engage in mowing the lawn the remainder of this year. So this budget you have is the rest of this year through next year.
This is through the end of this calendar year.
So really, it's on I understood it was based off of budgets at other offices here, but we're really not going to be have mowing done through the end of the year of that amount, if any.
if you'd like to make a motion to amend this and cut some of these expenses,
Well, I think that what we said earlier,
Do that.
it's a budget. What's not used by the end of the year is going back into the funds. I don't expect I think it'll be less than half of what's there.
you actually came up with these numbers, so if you feel like I've overstated that we can decrease those, speak up.
Bill,
But I
they were,
do think we're maybe on some of these lines, just be safe because it's an unknown.
I mean, we were planning for worst case scenario. I mean, if we had, the building sitting there for 3 months, it'll be that long before the end of the year and we have a new budget, trying to forecast whether we need a cleaning service to go in one time and dust things down, mop the floor, maybe keep the dust knocked down, maybe take an opportunity of clean the vent hood or the stove if it needed it between now and the end of the year. Some of the HVAC may need service between now and the end of the year. We're not anticipating to have to cut grass. We're going to try to do that with our Parks Department, and they've already cut it one time. But if something happens and we have a couple of guys out with COVID, we need to cut the grass, we could pay a landscape person for maybe one mowing. So anything we don't spend in this budget will go back to the general fund. It was best guess, trying to even it out for low money.
And just to be clear, we're not going to pay anybody $1,000 to mow the grass.
No.
Right.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. To help me make sense, so the expense report that we're looking at here is just to cover October, November, December of '23. It doesn't include anything for '24. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct. You'll see that on October the 24th.
And as Director Garcia said, this is a budget. It's I don't expect us to spend $1,000 on pest control, okay? I have a pest control contract. Certainly, this facility is most likely larger than what I have a contract on, but I can't. I just don't see it. But at the end of the day, this is a budget. If they're not going to, as Bill said, we're not paying somebody extra to do something. We're not going to overpay for services, but we want to be able to get through the end of the year and not come back to the board. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So any further discussion by the?
Just one more small question. Could you give me an example what the 4,000 other services is? Because we pretty much got a laundry list of services on here.
Other professional services, to give you an idea, if we have a plumbing repair, a toilet starts leaking, a water line burst, we've had somebody already look at the elevator. We're waiting on some numbers on what it's going to take to repair that. It would come out of other professional services. I've already got an estimate to look at to give us a status of the HVAC system. That would come out of these services. So that number could be eaten up pretty quick, just getting familiar with some of the operational equipment of the building.
And security services, is that an alarm system?
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask that.
And then there was something about communication,
Phone.
internet.
Phone. We haven't gotten into how much of the phone split is on what side of the building and how much can we separate the burglar alarm side of it either. I didn't have that information, so I just took a best guess at what our share of that would be.
And I wouldn't be asking this if it wasn't just for the end of the year and we're basically just assessing what we're going to be doing.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why I'm asking about spending over $60,000 on some of these things. It just seemed a little excessive to me.
I agree with you, and it was my best guess on an estimate. Like, I had $10,000 for building repairs. I don't anticipate at this moment needing to spend any of that $10,000. But if a tree falls on a corner, damages the awning or something like that, we need some money and not have to come back to the board. It was to just give us some cushion and some operating funds.
Thank you all. Do we have this was an item that was on the consent agenda. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Mr. Pritchett, please come forward, restate your name, address, and district, please.
George Pritchett, 207 Crestwood, District 1. $60,000 is probably pretty close to what this thing will cost. I'm more concerned. When we started this, we were going to have a meeting for the neighborhood to speak. We haven't done that. Have y'all ever been to a homeless camp? There's all kinds of new stuff laying around in the homeless camps that we give them already, they throw away. Now, here we are, we got a $4.5 million that get jumped up on this list here for this community resource center. I guess that's a nicer name than a homeless resource center. It really concerns me that we still haven't given anybody in the area an opportunity to come and speak other than we did one night. Why can't you listen to them maybe just a little bit? There's a lot of things in here. We're going to spend $4.5 million. What are we going to do when this pandemic money runs out? Okay, 60,000 times 4. That's $250,000 in round numbers it costs for this building when it's empty, when you add the utilities and all the things up, because all the grass had to be cut, everything there, you got some repairs in there. It's premature to spend a large sum of money for all of these things. Y'all could end up with a white elephant. You know, the city manager, and bless his heart, I like him, I've supported him, I'll continue to do so. We're going to have beds, or we're not going to have beds. Is it going to be a warming center, going to be a cooling center? How many days a year do we use it? I spoke with you, Marcia, and how many times a year did we use a warming and cooling center this past year? You don't have to answer. Not very many, I can tell you that. We had a bid from OCC that they might operate it for $2 million a year, and the comment to that was, that's way too much. You can't hire managers. You're going to have a manager, an assistant manager. You're going to have maintenance. You're going to have all kinds of things. Where's the money going to come from after this? I don't have much time. I can tell you, you're not even going to go out for 2 years and ask for an operator. Most of your nonprofits are pretty tired right now. There's plenty of problems. I could talk for about 30 minutes, but at this point, you're going to spend all this money, and in about 2 years, you're going to try to find somebody to operate it, and then you got to have a budget. You can't run this thing without a tax increase, people. So the Chamber of Commerce can carry the water for you and advertise for a tax increase, but I do not think the people of Hot Springs will give you a tax increase to take care of these homeless people. Warm them, cool them. We don't need any beds, and we don't need any more than what we have now. Thank you.
Did we have anybody else that wanted to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and state your name, address, and district, please.
Good evening. Dr. Sally Carter, and I live on Amity Road. Honestly, Mr. Pritchett and anybody else around doesn't really know how many warming shelters we have because I've never seen him at one. But we have an average of 4 to 5 each winter, and an average of 3 days. Some of those will last as long as 9 days. This resource center is not just for the homeless. This is for our people in poverty. And if we can get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people off, that's great. If we can help families maintain where they are, the money that we spend in this center, folks, is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what we're going to spend on security, maintenance to clean up all kinds of stuff, on emergency medical care, business and industry recruitment, which we will not be able to do if we continue the way we're doing. Let's do something different. And it's my understanding after our last meeting that you all wanted to partner with us. And if we continue the way we're going now, let's don't expect anything different. And it's up to us, because we all are going to have to work together. We've been working behind the scenes. You have no idea how much research and planning and things. And, you know, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'll tell you this. It's going to be wonderful for families that have people that need this. And don't think that your family is immune. Don't think that my family is immune. We need a place, a one-stop shop for whatever we have to put it together, so that our nonprofits can get there, can serve, can try to find those people and work with them. We have people that are being evicted daily. We need casework. We need these things. So I'm just asking you to continue to work with us and continue to support this, and we appreciate so much your help. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nobody else, just any further discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
No.
Webb.
Abstain.
Garcia.
Yes.
Trustee.
Yes.
Holliday.
Yes.
Beard.
Yes.
Mayor McCabe.
Yes, resolution is adopted. Now we'll move on to what was new business. The first item under was is resolution R-23-167, and I'll ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-167, a resolution declaring certain structure located at 350 Holly Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. That concludes your read. Mayor, if you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia, and staff report will be provided by Kathy Selman, Director of Planning and Development. Welcome.
Thank you. The proposal on this item is condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 350 Holly Street in District 1. Based on the condition of the structure poses public health and safety risks. The structure was inspected and deemed unsafe for habitation because of extensive structural damage to multiple areas of the roof, interior ceilings and walls, as well as to the foundation. Inspectors with Neighborhood Services have met with the owner, Ms. Barbara Brashears, and she agrees that the house cannot be repaired and needs to be removed. A notice of intent to condemn and information regarding the board's meeting tonight was hand-delivered to Ms. Brashears in the planning office. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and having no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Selman? Thank you. We have one individual signed up to speak, Ms. Barbara Brashears. Would you like to come forward and offer any comments? Restate your name, address, and district, please. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. This is Miss Brashears right here. I'm her sister-in-law. I'm with her.
Thank you.
We have concerns about when the house is torn down. It's built on a spring, and she goes every day and turns on the sump pump and gets rid of a lot of water that accumulates in the basement. We wanted the city to be aware of that during the process of taking it down, because there's going to be a lot of water coming up when they tear it down. How long do we have after tonight to get everything out that we want?
Denny, are we not provide, 30 days?
30 days will be your minimum, and then that's just before we'll ever start doing any kind of bids, and then it'll take some time to get a bid in and a contractor there, so.
That's fine. We talked to the people downstairs about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep the property, but, tear the house down. I was going to keep my property in the storage building, but, pay to tear the house down.
There's a storage building on the property, and it's in okay state of condition?
We've signed to have AP&L turn off the power next Wednesday, and we'll be taking care of the electrical cord that goes from the house to the storage building. It'll be removed.
Very good. Ms. Selman, and you're aware of all this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aware of the spring, and the condemnation affects only the principal building, not the shed.
Very good. So please keep in close contact with Ms. Selman and Michael Scott and they'll work with you to allow you time to move your personal effects out, and because we certainly don't want to take the building down when you're in the process of removing, but we do need to encourage you, within the next 30 days or so to have your personal effects removed. Okay?
Okay, well, I sure appreciate it.
Thank you. There's no one else signed up to speak on this. Please call the roll.
Director Webb,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holiday,
Aye.
Beard,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll
I failed.
consider.
Mayor,
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I failed to call Dobb Smith for the vote.
Maybe. Yes.
I apologize about that.
Very good. We're all accounted for. Resolutions adopted again, including Director Dobb Smith. We have two ordinances tonight. The first will be ordinance O-23-23, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title.
So moved.
Second.
Director Webb. Yeah. All those in favor of suspending the rules to read by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-23, an ordinance approving R2 suburban residential zoning at 1.35 unplatted acres, known as 136 through 140 Wayne Place, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, Director Webb. Again, Director of Planning and Development, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Jonathan Martin. He has requested R2 suburban residential zoning for the subject land on Wayne Place. This is generally west of Honeycutt and Chattanooga Streets. His subject property is zoned rural residential R1 at this time, and it has a future land use classification of residential suburban. It's in District Number 1. The surrounding property zoning on the north is R2 suburban residential. To the east is rural residential and M1 light manufacturing district to the northeast. And to the south and west is R1 rural residential. The surrounding land uses on the north, we have undeveloped woodlands. To the east, single-family residential. To the south, undeveloped lands, and to the west, more single-family residential. The staff recommendation to Planning Commission was to recommend that the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map by designating the property R2 suburban residential because they have made the finding that the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and surrounding zoning. It is consistent with the future land use plan map designation of residential suburban, and the change is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code as required by Hot Springs Code Section 16 to 11E. There are two homes at this time on the 1.35 acres. The owners would like to be able to divide the land to provide a separate lot for each home in possible future development. Because the R1 zone has a minimum lot size of 1 acre, this 1.35 acre parcel is not of sufficient size to allow them to divide the land. Planning Commission duly advertised their September 14, 2023 meeting, and after calling for testimony and considering the record by their unanimous vote, Planning Commission accepted the staff report findings and voting 7-0, recommended that the Board of Directors adopt the ordinance amending the zoning map for the property at 136 and 140 Wayne Place from R1 to R2 residential suburban, because that request does demonstrate compatibility with surrounding development and zoning and is consistent with the future land use plan map as required by Hot Springs Code, Section 16 to 11E.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you. Oh, step back, Ms. Selman. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I asked you at the agenda meeting, Ms. Selman, but I'm going to ask you again. Were there any appellates to this rezoning at all?
No, there was no testimony opposing this request.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Morrissey, do we have anybody who signed up?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? I'll just make a comment. I'm appreciative that of our planning department and the planning commission for, I guess there's a saying, common sense isn't always common anymore, but this was a good thing for the property owner and for the ability to increase the potential of housing and having these parcels be bought and sold separately from each other. That previous to this action would not have been possible. So that's a good thing. If there's no further comments, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action of the evening is to consider ordinance 23-24, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director
Second.
Holliday, Director Dobbs Smith. Council, please read by title.
Let's vote on the waiver.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion to, and second to read by, suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Mayor, this is ordinance O-23-24, an ordinance approving CTR commercial transitional zoning at .62 acres known as 115 Wynn Street, amending the future land use plan map to designate the area commercial enclave and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Well, I got Director Dobbs Smith by a nose, Director Trustee by a ponytail.
Thanks.
Second. Director Selman.
Thank you. The applicant is Dr. Carlotta Wells, representing property owner Southwest Arkansas Foot and Ankle Center. She is seeking CTR commercial transitional zoning for approximately .62 acres, which is 4 existing lots of land generally located at 115 Wynn Street. The subject properties currently are zoned R4, medium-high density residential. They have a future land use classification of residential medium-high and are located in District Number 3. These properties are lots 3 to 6 in Block 1 of Wyatt's subdivision. They have 200 feet of frontage on Wynn Street. Lot number 5 has a single-family residence at this time. 3, 4, and 6 are vacant. There is, however, another home under construction on one of those lots. The property is located directly across Wynn Street from the Maury Wyatt Shopping Center and is 1 lot away from the Albert Pike Starbucks, which is located just to the north. Surrounding land use is single-family residential, undeveloped woodland, multifamily apartment complex, and a commercial shopping center. The future land use plan map amendment recommendation to Planning Commission from staff was to recommend that the board adopt an ordinance amending the future land use plan map designating the subject property commercial enclave. The zone change staff recommendation to Planning Commission was to recommend the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map by designating the subject property CTR Commercial Transitional District because Planning Commission made a specific finding that the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning. The change is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code as required by Hot Springs Code Section 16-11E. Planning Commission duly advertised their September 14 meeting. After calling for testimony and considering the record by their 7-0 vote, Planning Commission accepted the staff report findings and recommends that the Board of Directors adopt this ordinance, amending the zoning map from R4 to CTR Commercial Transition, and to amend the future land use plan map from residential medium high density to commercial enclave because the requested change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning as required by Hot Springs Code Section 16-11E, and there were no persons testifying in opposition to this item at the hearing.
Any questions of Ms. Selman?
I have one.
Director
The
Dobson.
structure that's recently been constructed, is that a home or is that a business? It's immediately north.
It is similar to the already existing building that is there.
Thanks.
Any other questions of Ms. Selman? It says, I was trying to find it here. It's the proposed use is a residential care facility.
Yes, Dr. Wells has an intention of operating a facility in multiple smaller structures that would allow for the care of older people.
Okay. Would this be licensed through the Office of Long-Term Care?
I don't know what license would be required. As always, approval of this zone district is not dependent on any specific use or proposal. It does allow for the full range of permitted uses and conditional uses.
All right, thank you. Director Garcia?
Just to share some experience I've had within my district, if it's 3 or under, they're not required to be licensed. If over 3, they have to be licensed. They had to be licensed by the state. Has been my experience.
Yeah, I understood that to be the case.
Thank you.
Director Selman, you're saying that the brand-new structure, the new construction that's on the lot immediately north of this is the same fella, and he's building similar structures?
This is Dr. Carlotta Wells, yes.
Okay. I was just concerned that someone had built a brand-new house and now they're going to have commercial next. So it's the same person.
That is on one of the 4 subject lots.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Thank you. Anyone sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I made a mistake. And no, Mayor, it wasn't my first and it won't be my last. But I wanted to make a public apologies to Garland County JPs. I shared some information that I had misinformation about that I shared regarding fundings for our senior center. As you know, we've had a lot of discussions throughout the year regarding
Director Garcia, is that pertinent to this action of?
You said of, I thought you meant for the next item.
No, we're still on 023-24.
Well, I'll give my public apology after the vote.
Your apology is accepted for
See, that was another
jumping
mistake.
ahead. Okay, so if there is no discussion amongst directors and we have nobody from the audience that would like to speak, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Director Trusty.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted, and now we're going to continue with our regular broadcast of Director Garcia's public apology to unknown JP.
To all of our Garland County JPs, because I was made aware today, and I'm sorry I missed reading this, but the Finance Committee for Garland County has approved an appropriation of $500,000 of funds for the county share of purchasing and renovating a building to be used for a senior citizen center. And I had misspoke in that there had not been any funding appropriated. What had happened, there had been a building recommended that was not approved to be part of a purchase for a senior center. But in the last Finance Committee meeting, there was approval by the committee, and I don't have any doubt that the full quorum court will approve. And I look forward to the city and county working together to make sure that we have a great senior center for all the seniors in Garland County. And again, my apologies.
Very good. Any other directors' items for discussion? Director Holliday.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention a couple of things that happened recently that are pretty cool. One, I want to give kudos to everyone who helped organize the Big Steam Music Festival this last weekend. It's their second year. Last year was the first year, and right now they estimate they had about 3,500 visitors to that 2-evening event. And so, anyway, that's a great success for a new small festival. Also, I attended the Hot Springs Area Community Foundation Award Program today, and I wanted to give a shout out and appreciation to the Community Foundation, to all of those individuals who contribute or who participate on their board. They reported that in 2023, they've granted over $209,000 to our community, and that's over 60 organizations. So again, thank you to everyone who's part of the Community Foundation, and also thank you to all of the organizations who are doing the work and received grants and are boots on the ground in our community. So that was another highlight in our community. So thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Any other items for discussion?
Maybe I need an apology. Actually, it's not an apology, it's an explanation. The reason that I voted no on the $63,000 is that the city manager has $60,000 worth of purview that he could have done most of these things anyway. And my concern was going on record saying that we were going to spend this much. We probably won't, and I hope we don't, but I just didn't want to go on record as voting for spending that much money, and at the time, we still do not. We're working on it, but we still do not have an agreement with the new tenants.
Point of clarification, the city manager is only authorized to spend money that's been budgeted.
Okay.
This was asking that it be budgeted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if nobody has another item.
I move to adjourn.
Director Garcia makes a motion, seconded by Director Webb. We do have some public comment that will occur immediately after, so all those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned, but stay tuned. We'll be right back.